we have Sue Holderness. Where are you, Sue? There you are. Sue Holderness, let's see, you are 2021 alum, 2020 virtual alum, and 2019 alum. Sue was one of the guests that we wanted to bring on because she is currently rowing in college. So I think she brings a really unique perspective in that she went through the recruiting process and is now applying mental skills at the collegiate level right now, which is really amazing. We also have Lindsay Saunders on here. Wave, Lindsay. Lindsay was a U17 coxswain last summer. It was her first RSR program, but got tremendous improvement. I think top 2 of the coxswains when we tracked improvement over time at camp. She is at Nobles, and we brought her on here both so she could speak a little bit to the U17 experience, because I know some parents and athletes are a little nervous that they feel like they would be young, but also the coxswain experience, right? Because we always hear about coxswains not having the opportunity to develop, and it's really hard during a scholastic season for coaches to coach coxswains in depth. And we also have Kelsey, Coach Kelsey, wave Kelsey. She is our coxswain coach, so she would be able to answer any specific questions you might have for her. And then Irma, where are you, Irma? There you are. Irma was a U19 rower last summer. She lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and she is in the recruiting process right now. I will let her announce that on her social media when she is ready. Lindsay as well, but Irma is a year older. And she was a U19 rower, came to RSR for the first time last summer, so can speak about her experience having not done any RSR programs before. So I actually met Irma because of one of her teammates. Not sure if Ava's on here, but I had met one of her teammates at a prior program, and then Ava did such a great job recruiting her teammates that I snapped Irma up. So she was a rower on the team last summer. So thank you guys for coming. It's 8:35. I'm going to go ahead and start, and Coach Jackie will just let folks in. Apologies for the dong sound when they come in. So you guys, I think the audience would really love to hear from you guys about the specific mental skills that you learned at camp. I want to start with Lindsay, and if you can talk a little bit about specific mental skills, maybe even your favorite one. I think Ava wanted to know that you learned at camp, and that will help color how the program is different from other camps.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm Lindsey Saunders. Nice to meet you all. And these mental skills, I think, are what really set the camp apart, because Holly gave us the tools to use in difficult situations, both in crew and outside of crew in life. So I was able to apply some of these tools she taught us to my calls. So for example, if I'm in the boat coxing and I see one of my rowers struggling in a piece and they're just like so done, one of the tools she taught us was this RSR anchor, which is like a reminder to them to find something to think about that's not about their body, something that they can connect themselves to. So for example, that sound as they swing through the pin, and by making a call for them to think about that, they're able to take their mind off the pain. Another call that I have learned from these tools, or that I'm able to apply to coxing, is the situation, thought, analysis, and response tool she taught us. So for example, if I'm in the boat and I'm getting some feedback from a coach, my first thought would be like, oh my God, I'm not a good coxswain. Like, I should just stop. This is so embarrassing. But really, I should take the situation and take what they're telling me and think, wow, I'm going to be a better coxswain because now I can apply this to tomorrow's practice and be even better. And so I think that these mental skills have really helped me in tons of difficult situations. And I've even applied them to taking a test or running a cross-country race. So I'm really grateful that I have them in my toolbox.
Awesome. So Lindsay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What about distress tolerance specifically for coxswains? I can remember the day, apologies again in advance, when I shouted at you because you were spinning the boat. I thought she was gonna hit the launch with the bow of the boat, but she wasn't, right? Remember this? Maybe you don't. Oh, thank goodness I didn't traumatize you. But anyway, Lindsay was taking her boat down and the launch was.
Oh yeah.
And then, this was like the first week, and then I thought, oh, she's gonna be terrified of me. But anyway, she was spinning and she had cleared the launch, but it was close, and from my angle, it looked like she was gonna hit the launch. So I shouted like way enough, really loud, and everyone stopped, and your face was like, Coach Holly just shouted at me. And then I saw you like take a deep breath and be like, okay. And then you went on and like crushed practice, right? So, and then I apologize to you guys later for shouting at her incorrectly. But the point is, part of the skills is this idea of managing your behavior while under distress, right? And the coxswain's whole job is to execute under extreme distress and not let other people know that they're under extreme distress. So Lindsay could have been like practically in tears after I told her boat to weigh up, but you don't want your boat to know that, right? And so she just then went off and crushed the practice, right? You were not going to hit the launch, I'm aware, but the point was
they definitely helped me become the voice that the rowers needed in mentally challenging situations. So it helped me learn that voice.
Awesome. Cool, thanks. Irma, what about you? What specific mental skills did you learn that you found to be super helpful, maybe even your favorite one? And then how have you applied that today?
So we learned a lot of mental skills at camp, but my favorite one had to be like redirecting my pathways. So I fell into like a lot of habits in my rowing that like I wasn't proud of, and it wasn't doing me any good in becoming a better rower or a better athlete. So what we learned at camp was, even though it's long, because like, even though the process is long, to change the habits that we've created, because it's been so long, we've been doing them over and over again, every step forward is a good step forward. So when you're on the erg and like it starts getting tough and you start to give in on yourselves, you start to remember and try to create that new pathway for yourself. We compared it to like the woods. Like there's a clear pathway on the woods that everyone walks down and we all are comfortable with because it's very clear, it's not wooded, it's not dangerous, and it's very safe for us. So what I learned at camp was to do is to create this new pathway that's kind of dangerous and it feels like unsettling, but it's the correct way for me to do it. And it's the right way for me to do it. So that was basically my favorite. And I applied to every single time I erg. I just always have to tell myself, go down this path, because it's really important that we start to build those habits, even though it might be hard. I've also used it in a lot of other things, like especially school, because I have a bad habit of procrastination, but I also want to stop doing that. So I have to create this new pathway for myself to tell myself that this isn't what I want to do and this is what I want to do. So.
Awesome. So let me give them a little background on what you're talking about. This is so fun, Irma. And then I want to ask you specifically about that erg piece, which I know you know the one I'm talking about. So without getting super scientific about it, basically the way your brain works is when you have repeated behaviors, the neural pathways link together and they become stronger, and therefore they're easier to follow, which is what Irma's describing as like the well-worn path in the woods. Like it's not hard and you see it and it's very clear and like you just go that way. Well, what happens if that pathway in the woods is not going in the direction you want, or it's going to like the wrong trailhead, which is what Irma is describing. And a lot of athletes come to RSR having that. Maybe it's not with rowing, it could be with something else. It doesn't really matter. The point is, it's once you've been taking that pathway, it's hard and a little scary to take a new one, right? But the new one will lead you to the place you want to go. We spend a lot of time on purpose and stuff like that. So in order to start to change that and gently step outside your comfort zone and making that change, you both have to identify the new way you want to go, build the bridge or this new bushwhacking path that Irma is talking about, and then you have to actively take that path. Like you have to intentionally, mindfully, willingly take the new route. And that is hard. That is really hard. And what I can tell all of you, is there's like this interesting conundrum with RSR in that everyone knows that we teach this. And so they're like, yes, the magic wand is at RSR. And I'm like, no, no, no. We just tell you the lessons. We create a platform and a safe place for you to practice these lessons, and then build pressure on that. So you build confidence in doing that. You still have to select the path every time though. And the old one's still there, like whispering to you to go down the other pathway. So the idea is, teach all of you guys the lessons and actively let you practice taking this new path. Part of the habit that Irma's referencing is, conceptually, I like people to think about every time you take an action that is in support of the new habit you want, it's like casting a vote for who you want to be. I did not make that up. I totally stole that from someone, but I can't remember where it's cited from. But the idea is a little action just keeps casting a vote for who you want to be. If you really don't want to work out that day, but you're like, I am the type of person that does my training as I've committed to do. And even if you have a day where you just really can't fit it in, like academically, then you do, I don't know, 100 jumpies and 20 push-ups as opposed to nothing, right? Like, and so all of those times when you cast a vote for the person that you want to be is how you slowly build over time new positive habits, right? And take the path that Irma's talking about. So I would like to add a little more detail around Irma's story, if you're willing, Irma. So Irma came in, and maybe you told me like, I have some challenges on the erg or something like that. And a lot of people do. It's not unique to you. And frankly, the one time I've ever met an athlete who said she'd never had any challenges on the erg, and I said, well, you're not pulling very hard then. So everyone has challenges on the erg at some point. And so, but there was one day, Irma, that was a really special day. Right. And I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. And I can tell you that other coaches at that program were, myself included, were weepy watching you that day. Okay. And they came up to me at the end and were like, what is happening? And these are Olympians. I won't name any names, but they were like, I was like crying and I wasn't even erging. And I said, what is happening to this coach is you're watching transformation happen on the erg. You are actively watching the love the fight motto executed on the erg, which is exactly what happened for you that day, right? And I don't know if you remember, but I came up behind you and was like, you know, this is the day, like, you know, this is happening in the middle of the erg test. And you like nodded at me, and then we're probably like, and enough, Coach Ellie, stop talking to me on the erging. But it was really awesome. Like that is what makes the whole camp worthwhile to me. Is to see that happening, to see an athlete start to implement the things that they had been learning under distress, not when it's easy, right? And it's not going to be perfect. And that erg piece wasn't perfect. And your erg test, if I remember after, it wasn't perfect either. It wasn't bad, but it's not linear, right? It's not like once you do it one time, like forever, you're going to be able to do this. It's really, really hard. So anyway, I don't know if you have any of like your perspective on that, but from a coaching perspective, like that day goes down as like top 5 highlights for me of that camp, was like that, watching you and being there for that at that erg piece.
So I will say that erg piece, I remember it so vividly. I was very fearful. I like express always having fear on the erg and not feeling confident in my abilities and like my training. And it really got to me, that erg piece. And I remember I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so embarrassing. I can't believe this. And then I remember sitting back down to the erg. And I just want to see how far I could go, how far I could push the limit, if I could hit the ceiling. And I did, or as far as I thought I could go at that moment. And it felt really good because in that moment, I realized that whatever my brain was telling me on the first piece that I attempted wasn't true. And that I let myself buy into it for so long that it just kept taking advantage of me and taking opportunities for me to just be great and be a good athlete. So that erg piece really turned my life around. I remember it very vividly. It's very fond in my heart.
Oh, you guys, seriously. I mean, how can you not want to go to this camp? You have someone telling telling you that the erg was like one of the most fondest memories in her heart. Come on, seriously. How could you not want to go to a camp that does that? Awesome. Thanks, Irma, for sharing. So Sue, you got 3 years to draw on here. All 3 of them have been super different in terms of your experience and stuff, but love to hear your side.
Okay, yeah. So what you're kind of saying already well, first, mental skills in general, I feel like many people focus on all the physical things, and people in our sport will do crazy things to get physically in shape and try to get all these advantages. But if you don't do the mental thing, if you don't have that mental capacity, you're not going to be able to ever get anywhere near your limits. So the mental aspect is just as important. And I feel like at RSR, really, that's where like at least for me, that's where the seeds of it all was planted. That's how I was saying. It's not like there's a huge growth all of a sudden, but there's like the seeds are planted, and then just throughout time you're going to continue to develop all these mental skills. And like I start noticing things and connecting it back to what I heard and what I learned at camp, and it just gives you like this solid base for you to grow and have such a good mental platform. So definitely that cast a vote, that's something that I think about all the time. Cast a vote for who you want to be. And then also we heard about a piggy bank and how every like good nutrition, hydration, good workout, all of that goes into your piggy bank, and on race day, that's all you can cash out is what you've put in. And I really like thinking about that. And then like I still have a binder, actually. We still have the binders we get to take home from all of our work. And so that's really helpful because you can look through it. And just like your physical workout, if you don't do your mental workouts, then you're not gonna have that same mental strength that you had at camp. So that's one reason definitely to keep returning to, is because you start building layers, and then it may like fatigue a little bit after you haven't been at camp a while and you kind of forgot to do some mental skills. Then you go back and it gets stronger, and you build on the layer you built last year. And so every year I felt like I learned something new and heard some other things like the same to regrowth. And I kind of, even when I heard the same information, I was a different person. So I interpreted it different and was able to process new things. And it is a lot of stuff you learn. So you do need some time to process everything. And so it's new information and old information, and just helps you build it. And I definitely use it all the time, every day at practice.
I wanna ask you, like someone did ask like how often are you reviewing mental skills? So I do want to ask you that, Sue, and hear how you're using it specifically at Texas, but also you are the only one of these 3 who can speak to like coming back. So someone did ask you guys, like, why did you choose RSR? So, you know, I don't want to derail us totally with all these mix of questions, but you're pretty unique. And on June 18th, actually, I'm going to talk to Taylor, who is a 4-year vet. But talk to you, you could have done like HP or, you know, whatever, tried to even do select team, probably. Like why did you not do that?
Well, so first year after I came to RSR after my first year of rowing, and then I was just like, had no clue. I just knew I wanted to row in the summer, but I didn't really know anything. So we just kind of looked at everything. And then after, I remember we had an interview with Holly, and we're like, that sounds good. Let's try it. And then went and loved it. And so then I think I kept coming back because I knew I was going to be going to a place that was going to push my limits, was going to help me grow my mental skills and get me fitter. I mean, you do get a lot fitter in that month. And that it was also a place where I just knew I could trust that I'd have good teammates, even though I didn't know who they were, and that I'd have good coaching staff that like truly cared about me and as a person, and not just like using me as a machine to get results at the end of the summer. But because I think that was a big thing. And then even now in college, like Polly, you've helped me this semester and a couple times. So you know that it's coaches that actually care about you, and I've still reached out to some other coaches too. What were some of those other questions? Oh, how often I use mental skills.
Like how often are you reviewing your binder? Like is it part of your routine, or what would you advise people to do?
Well,
do you have stuff on your wall? Like how are you keeping it sort of top of mind?
Yeah, I have I actually have 3 journals, which seems excessive, but it just works for me, that are by my bed. And one of them is a grateful journal that I just write down 3 things I'm grateful for every day. One of them I just write like a note about my day that can be short. And then the other one that I always do is my I track my workouts and fitness logs. And normally in there, that's when I'd say review it, because I write down what I did for the day and then notes about different things. So then I think about if I used a mental strategy. I will put like at this point in this workout, I thought about this, or something didn't work or something did work. So I do think most days I review it in some way by putting that. And then I also go back and look at that before I do some test or hard thing to see. But then every day I definitely find I use my mantra quite a lot too. And that I have written in my room. So that, I guess, is a visual cue every morning. And then mentally, it's just to get through most workouts in days, you got to have something to pull out and think about. So I think every
it's
day.
hard. What you're doing is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most recently, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This week I kind of was having some back spasms and pulling out, which was not good because then I had to sit out from practice, and I hate sitting out from practice. But I was like, the one after I calmed myself down a bit, I was thinking about how if I can't be rowing on the water right now, I need to make gains somehow. And I was thinking, okay, this is my opportunity for mental strength. And so this week has been a big mental reviewing and mental strength week. So that's been really nice too, as something to help me.
Yeah, that's called the workaround effect, remember?
Yes, did not know the name, but yeah.
The idea that if there's a cone, the diagram in your manual has the cone and it goes around it. It's like there's a cone blocking your normal path and you got to go around. You're going to have to develop some other skill. And actually the data, and there's lots of stories about how people have gotten faster when they were injured because they were forced to work on these other things that they never would have spent their time working on. So awesome, Sue. So Irma, tell these guys a little bit about, you did ODP before RSR. Tell folks a little bit about sort of the difference between your experience at other programs, other summer camps.
Okay, so I did ODP the first year that it was announced. I did it the inaugural year in 2019. That was the summer of my freshman year. I was going into my sophomore year. And it was a really good camp. It really set the foundation for me to be serious about the sport and serious about like becoming better. But when going to RSR took what ODP gave me and amplified it, like times 10. It taught me new skills that I didn't know before, and it focused really on me as an individual. And I felt like I grew more there as a rower and as a teammate. So I feel like I brought a lot more back home to my teammates for them to like grow off me, and just like the energy that I feel like I brought home from RSR was way different from ODP because I feel like I was a more mature rower coming home from RSR, having learned so much. I mean, ODP was a really good experience, but RSR just brought so much more to the table. I got to go to summer nationals with RSR. With ODP, you go to the ODP Cup against other ODP athletes. So I felt like being against like more competitive racing at summer nationals was so much fun. And I was able to go to college fair and talk to some colleges and like really begin my recruitment process that summer, something that like I had thought about before, but didn't know how to get started. And there are plenty of girls at RSR that were much older than me. And at ODP, the age range sort of seemed to be around sophomore, freshman-ish. There weren't many older girls to like look up to or like ask for advice. But at RSR, we had RAs like Sue and Nina and Melissa and Taylor, who were like all on our floors, scattered around, who you could ask like at any time for advice on recruitment, life, anything. So it was really nice to have girls there that I could look up to and like really ask about things if I needed to. And it really inspired me on my own recruitment journey. So I'm really thankful for RSR in that way.
Awesome. What about you, Lindsay? You've done some Coxswain camps.
Yes, I've done 3 other camps, and one of them was Coxswain specific, but all of those combined, I still learned more RSR than the 3 of those combined. So, and that is for 2 reasons. Like, I came to RSR for 2 reasons. One, because I got a ton of experience on the water, and 2, because I got a ton of feedback. So the first day I got there, Kelsey hands me a 40-page Coxswain manual, and I'm like, awesome. Like, right off the bat, I just get a ton of new information. And then over the course of the month I was there, I filled 2 notebooks worth of information from coaches and from the amazing rowers around me. There were coxswain surveys that were conducted. So that was when all the rowers would fill out these surveys that gave feedback to the coxswains on your motivation skills, your confidence, your steering, tons of things like that. And then you would go over it with the coaches. So I remember specifically one time I was going over that with Coach Kelsey. And one of the things that I had to work on was making certain calls from my diaphragm, like if I want it to be low and powerful. So she took me and another coxswain to this hill that overlooked the entire campus one afternoon, and we just practiced like making calls and seeing them echo out into the fields and stuff. So it'd be like, into, that's 1, 2, on this one, and you would like feel it, and it was so fun and really helpful and made a difference for me the next day in practice. So in addition to the manual and the surveys, we also had coxswain meetings with all the coxswains and all the coaches in a room, and we would go over each other's recordings and get a lot of helpful advice on those. And then lastly, the coaches were just willing to meet with you all the time and constantly available for you since they were living on campus. And the mental skills were obviously really helpful for me because they put me in the rower's mindset during challenging workouts and how I could best help them. So all around, this camp just gave me so much feedback and tons of racing and practice experience that is super valuable.
Awesome. So Coach FH is not on here, but I spoke to him before this, and he did say, Lindsay, now I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. He did say that you and this other coxswain, he said, I'm not going to lie, Holly, when I heard that first tape, I was like, they're really, they can be really shrilly was the word he used. And he was like, there's no way you can make this change. And he said that you both totally blew him out of the water after making these changes. Maybe it was after the shouting on the hill practice, I don't know. But he said he'd never seen, like, that's a really hard thing to switch, right? That's not just like using one word instead of another or dropping a vocabulary word from your daily like practice. So he said he was totally blown out of the water. He'd never seen people just like grab a bull by the horns and just totally make that change. So that's really awesome. Feather in your cap there. Lindsay, as the U17 athlete, talk a little bit about, you know, because you guys love to have the U17 athletes because the mental skills implanted in your brain or planting these seeds, as Sue said, early, the earlier the better almost, right? So you can use them throughout your entire high school career. So talk a little bit about what it was like to come as a U17 athlete and like just reassure folks or give your feedback on like how you thought it was to come as a younger athlete.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say when I got there, I was just a little bit nervous, you know, sitting in that room, having everyone listening to my recording. And now I know how they really felt about it. No kidding. But no, having that, like once I got over that initial fear of like, oh my God, they're all judging me and like, I'm not good enough. No. Once I got over that, I was able to be like, this is a great place for me to just get tons of feedback and come back to my home team and just use that. You know what I mean? So I started asking every day after practice, I would ask the rowers in my boat what I could improve on. And then I would ask the coaches in the launch following me what I could improve on. So if you're coming into the camp in U17 and you're feeling nervous about your skills or where you are, just know that this is a place that is supportive and they just want you to improve. Another thing I would say was I had never really been taught like how to make certain calls for races, especially, and like even like the sprint sequence, like I never learned that things like that. So another really helpful aspect of this camp was instead of just throwing you in the boat and like expecting you to make this perfect recording during summer nationals, we spent the entire week beforehand prepping, making calls for starts, prepping, making calls for the big RSR move and the sprint sequence. So I felt so comfortable coming to the start line at Summer Nationals, and I knew the volume, the tone, and the way to deliver the calls that would best and be most effective to the rowers in the boat. So that was super helpful. So again, I would just say for the U17 athletes coming in, don't be fearful, embrace what you learn at this camp, and they prepare you so well for Summer Nationals, and you'll just feel so much more confident stepping in the boat after this camp.
Awesome. Irma and Lindsay, do any of you guys want to answer the question about how often you review your mental skills? I didn't ask you guys that.
I can answer it. So I don't look through my binder. If we're talking about binder, I don't look through my binder every day, but every single day I am using a mental skill. So I'm always reviewing. I'm going to go back to the redirecting pathways one. I think I do use that every day because it's a really hard thing to clear those pathways. It is not for the lighthearted. It gets really hard sometimes. I get really down on myself because I wonder, I went to this camp over the summer and it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't clicked. I haven't just broke through yet, but it's a process, and I trust the process so deeply that I'm willing to clear this pathway for forever, as long as it takes. And it's an everyday thing. It's a constant thing. You can't really escape it. I'm not trapped or anything, but I can't run from using the skills that I was taught at camp because they're just so versatile and I can use them in literally anything.
What is your redirection statement, Irma? Are you willing to share it? Are you willing to share it?
Yeah, I can't. I felt like it was really boring, but I always tell myself just one more push, just one more. If I just do one more stroke, it'll be okay. I won't pass out. I won't fall off the erg. If I just do one more. And then if I just keep telling myself one more, suddenly I'm done. And it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Maybe I can go harder next time. So it's a good one. I think it's a really good one.
Awesome. So you guys, the skill Irma's referencing for people on the call who haven't done an RSR program is, and there's a diagram in their manual that shows this, that helps me understand. If you're trying to get from point A to point B, along the way, when you're doing something hard, you're going to have these thoughts. We call them derailing thoughts. And people always assume they're supposed to get rid of them or that it's bad if they have them. And we normalize all those things and are straight with you guys and saying, you're going to have them. The harder the thing is, the more of them you're going to have, and I can't take it away. What you can do is learn to both recognize them faster, right? So not have them and find yourself off in la la land before you recognize that you're in la la land, and redirect yourself back onto the path that you want to be on, right? So, and every time you do that, it's considered like a mental rep, like they have a little diagram of a brain doing weightlifting workouts, right? So it actually becomes a good thing, recognize, redirect, as opposed to not being mindful and you find yourself off somewhere else. So mine is taken from Sue's coach, actually, when I heard him speak at a conference years ago when he was speaking, I believe, to his first UT team at NCAAs. They were in the grand final. I think it was his first year at Texas. And he gave a speech to that, I think it was his 1V, saying, in this race, when you say to yourself, it's never going to happen. So he didn't say, if you say, right? He said, when you say to yourself that it's never going to happen, get back to work. As soon as you recognize that you have thought to yourself, this is never going to happen, then you need to get back to work. And that is, for me, one of my, and you can go onto the coaches page. I asked the coaches to start answering these questions of what their favorite mental skill is. That's one of my favorite ones because it's not, I'm not blowing rainbows, right? I'm in the middle of something super hard. I'm not you can do it, Holly. No, if I'm doing something really hard, do not tell me you can do it, Holly, because then I'm going to say, no, I can't. What are you talking about? I feel horrendous, right? Or I'm not trying to be it's okay, do it for, and something too smiley. If I'm in that scrape in the bottom of the barrel, there is no smiling happening. Okay. But if someone can give a neutral statement like that to me, to bring me back to the most important thing I have to be doing right then, which is the stroke you're on. That's our definition of mental toughness at camp. That is how I do that. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be smiley. I don't have to be like positive, right? Because if you're really down there, like you're not going to be, except for Sue. Occasionally I have seen someone scraping the bottom of the barrel and be smiling, and her name is Sue. So I was not one of those athletes, nor am I now when I go running or do CrossFit or something. So mine was get back to work. So we work with the athletes to help identify a really short like phrase that they can use to redirect. It's not like, you're awesome, because what if you feel horrible? And maybe you're not even hitting the splits, you guys. So you like, I don't want, if I'm not on target, and I don't want someone to be like, you're awesome, Holly. I'm gonna be like, are you looking at the same erg monitor that I'm looking at? I am not awesome right now, right? But the idea is you have to fight through it. Like there's no fly and die, there's fly and fight only. So anyway, awesome, Irma, thanks. Lindsay, what's yours?
I was just gonna say, I probably go through my booklet once a month, but then whenever I'm in difficult situations, I can refer back to those mental skills, and then I try to share them with the people also going through that difficult situation. So for example, I do cross country, and one of the mental skills that I was thinking about when I was running was like the cash out mindset that Sue was talking about. And I shared this whole thing with my team, like when you make a deposit and during practice and you run, you're going to be able to cash out and reap the benefits during the race. And anyways, everyone started like writing in Sharpie on themselves before races, like on their muscles and stuff, like cash out. And I actually see some people from my team on this Zoom from the cross country team. And so just being able to like share those mental skills with the people around me was just an amazing experience. This is where I learned it, guys. You need to come.
That's so awesome, Lindsay. So just, maybe Sue, Irma, and Lindsay, you're not thinking about it this way, but, and I'm sure Jackie and Kate and Kelsey would agree with me, from our seats, when you guys tell us those kinds of stories, that is the definition of leadership in the state, the current place of your life. That is what it looks like for you right now, is to be able to share those kinds of things you learn, Lindsay, with the people around you and elevate their game, right? Like that's awesome. That is so cool. Sue, what's yours?
I would say, I think I have multiple, honestly. Kind of depends on different things. Sometimes
requiring you to develop multiple redirection statements.
Yeah, sometimes I use the get back to work one. That definitely is but that one I have to be able to like talk to myself more. That one's too long sometimes. So I can use that one. Sometimes like Irma, I think about just push. It's just push and I'm just pushing. And then I kind of right now have a redirection thinking thing, if that makes sense. I was starting to get really anxious whenever my back was like starting to tighten up this week. And then if I closed my eyes and I would breathe in, and I would imagine this little like ball going up my spine when I breathed in and then going back down when I breathed out, and it made me calm. I don't know why, but it just worked for me. And so I think you got to test your own. There's so many different things that you can say to yourself, and there's not like one thing we can tell you that was going to make you that's going to work. But everyone, after a while, you're going to find your thing that works for your direction. And so right now, those are the ones I'm using.
Were you doing that breath technique as you were working out or stationary?
No, as I'm working out, both actually. But
and you're doing steady state. You're doing steady state when you're doing that.
Yeah, I did try it in a sprint this morning on the bike, and that it was actually fine. I just couldn't do it was really fast. It was like, there you go. But yeah.
Yeah. So remember in the virtual thing, we had a meditation specialist on the second half of the virtual program, and she talked about like the actual physiological benefit of doing that controlled deep belly breathing. So what you're describing is like proven fact. That's why I'm curious when you're working out. Like most people do it stationary, right? When their heart rate's not elevated, but it's like the slow inhale, hold for 5, slow exhale right? Hold for 5. So anyway, that's awesome. So cool. Okay, so we have about 15 more minutes. I have a question that just came in that I want to answer really quickly. And then want to tell you guys about some other things we have coming up. So there's an athlete is asking us what a typical camp day looks like at RSR, and I'll do a high level, and then you guys could pop in any, and Kate has some additional questions. So I will give you a high level of a day in the life of camp, and then I'll let the athletes add some color to that. Basically, and then they said, what does a free day look like? Do you have any? Sort of you have a free day. We practice, let's see, what do we practice? We practice 12 times a week. So there is, depending on weather and all that stuff, there are 2 practices. If you practice twice a day, every day, there are 2 practices off, and then we reserve the right to call a practice or do something alternative if folks look tired. The programming is designed to allow your body to recover in there, right? So we're never like massively loading super intense stuff, but you do get fitter, that is for sure. And we like to practice early in the morning and then in the afternoon, and we do erg. We erg, I think, probably more than our comparable racing camps erg. And that is because it's a critical piece in building your confidence on the erg and practicing, you know, managing yourself in a state of fear or discomfort. We give you the splits to pull on all of those ergs and then give you your 2K split. So the reason we do that is because we don't ask you to do anything we don't think you can do. We might ask you to do something that's really hard for you to do, but we have calculated what you should do based on the erg workouts you do with us, so that then it'll be hard, but totally doable. So there are mental skills, there will be this summer, 3, maybe 4 days a week. The schedule changes slightly depending on the location that we're at, and, you know, weather and water access and all that stuff. And we're in final discussions with a couple of new locations for this summer. We do some strength workout a little bit during the week. We do erg office hours during the week, where one of the coaches, usually someone who has a much faster erg than I did, goes down to the erg. We will tap people to attend that, and then try our best to have some open office hours to go down that, and the coxswains are encouraged to go to that. We have video review in large group, and then sometimes with specific folks that need to see some video. And then Kelsey runs a really robust coxswain training program. Each athlete is assigned to one of the coaches, so you have a direct mentor, and they provide a feedback session for you. A one-on-one feedback session for you, not just coxswains, but the rowers get that too. And that's pretty unique to our program as well. So this year I'm actually building into the program probably in the late morning after a hot breakfast mentor hour. And so you may have your meeting in that time, but if you don't have it, then that's free for you. You have some mental skill work to do in your binder, like some writing work. That's like the soul searching part. Sometimes we do that in a mental skill session, or sometimes I assign that, and sometimes I ask if I can see it or your coaches can see it. And sometimes you just write for your own benefit. So those are sort of the way those work. In this past year, we didn't let anyone leave because of COVID. And that might be the same again this summer. In previous years, prior to COVID, we did let people check out on an afternoon off, and potentially even with parental permission, leave campus for like dinner or something with a local athlete and their parents. We did not do that, obviously, in 2021, but we did do it in 2019. And the RAs, I will comment on that in just a second, but the RAs do super fun activities. Once a week, they plan something really fun, like field day, which is one of my favorites, or like a scavenger hunt, or in years past, we did like a pickup basketball game, which is always very interesting. So they plan some fun activities for athletes. So we do give you the schedule ahead of time as best we can, obviously with weather being something that may change the schedule slightly, but that allows some of our older athletes to schedule college coach phone calls if they have some of those, so that they see like an hour, 2-hour break coming up. Your days are pretty packed. I can tell you that because we have this component of the mental skills that no other camp offers. We don't just have like a presentation about mental toughness or goals and that's the end of it. There are more obligations for you at this camp than any of the other camps in terms of your schedule. I can tell you it's a pretty packed day, which is why we often don't have a whole lot of homesickness, because you don't have time to realize that you're homesick. So yeah, that's sort of day in the life. I don't know if any of you guys want to add something. Maybe it sounds scary. I don't know if you want to add anything. And then Kate has some additional questions, it sounds like. You guys want to add anything?
I'll add something. There's definitely, I mean, yeah, it's a packed day, but it's what you're there to do. So it's fun and enjoyable. And then, but there's definitely some time to go lie down in your room for a second or chat with a friend. And I'd say at night too. I feel like this is something that's not as much seen by the coaches, but there's a fun, like normally you're in our dorm and we meet up in the middle hallway and you just kind of chat or, you know, get to decompress with some other people. And so it's a good community, and when there's downtime, it's normal. You can go in your room and just relax for a second also, or just hang out with everyone. And it's a pretty welcoming area. Just come in if you want. But yeah.
Awesome. Kate, you got some more questions?
Yeah, so I have 3 questions. One was, does RSR accept international students, and what is the financial aid process?
Yeah, so we, prior to COVID, did. I think COVID is the only thing that could limit us if there was like restrictions coming into the country. We did have an athlete from the UK in 2017. I think that was the last time we had an international athlete, but yes, we welcome international athletes, and there is financial aid. The financial aid, so RSR right now is not a 501c3. And so we offer a lot of aid. There's almost 20% of the roster is on some form of financial aid. And there's different levels of that. And basically, if you need financial aid, then you tell me, and I do the best I can. This year, I'm actually going to ask any parents when they register who are not needing financial aid if they want to donate to that. We are not a 501c3, so it's not a tax deductible donation for them, but we've had some pretty impactful summers for previous athletes where parents have sent money to support financial aid of other athletes. Like, it's very humbling to me and amazing that they do that. So we do, just let me know. And I try to do the best that I can.
All right, perfect. The next question is, how strict is the erg time requirements to apply to the RSR Elite?
Yeah, so it is not a cutoff, you guys. It is a suggestion, and that is mainly because the camp is hard, and we want to make sure we're pushing you outside your comfort zone, but not radically outside your comfort zone, right? Like, there can't be a situation where someone is in a state of fitness that will not be a positive experience for them. And so that is tricky. I try to talk to all of your coaches as well, just to also understand, like, sometimes teams don't erg that much, or I don't know, there's an injury or whatever. There's other things going on. So it is not a cutoff. I can tell you, generally, we like to have our U19 athletes sub 745 and our U17 athletes sub 810. There is a little bit of addition on there for lightweights. Note, there probably will not be any lightweight competition this summer, nor will there probably be U23 racing this summer. It is not official, but it sounds to me like they're actually pulling U23 events. So that means the RA situation is sort of up in the air a little bit. So they may just be junior coaches where they're training, but they won't be able to race. I don't know that for sure. US Rowing hasn't announced it yet. They also haven't announced the dates, which is why our dates are tentative. generally sub 745 for a U19 athlete, sub 810 for a U17 athlete. I can tell you last year, the U19 athletes ranged from probably, I don't know, an 820 actually for an athlete who maybe hadn't erged a lot or had a tricky time, right? I interview as many athletes as I can that I think will be ready to do this. So I took someone who was around an 820 and we had a 711 all the way to 711 for a U19 athlete. And then our U17 athletes, if I remember, were probably 820 if they were lightweight or so in there to, I don't know what, 738 maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere in there. So we don't want to bring someone in that they're so off the mark that they feel like they shouldn't be there. And so that's why I try to talk to as many athletes as I can and your coaches.
If you go with a friend, can you have them in the dorm with you and be with them during the camp?
So they will probably be in the dorm. We try to keep everyone in 1 or 2 dorms, depending on how big the dorms are, but they will absolutely not be your roommate. And that is by design, so that you'll meet new friends. You'll meet new friends faster. We also don't let any alumni room with each other either, so that everyone's meeting new people. Everyone has a roommate that they do not know. And we do have athletes from the same program. I think we had, 6 athletes from Sarasota last summer. So we separate them, and these guys can tell you, but the team comes together pretty quickly. I think there's a variety of reasons for why that happens, but the culture is such that everyone's on board and it is aware that this is a rowing racing camp, but it's also this opportunity for you to personally develop yourself. And so when you're invested in yourself and then supporting the other women around you, being vulnerable, which is leading to the connection that then they can become their best self at camp, like that's really powerful. So the bond is pretty unique to the camp. So for sure, people know each other there. We have about 20% of the roster are alum every year. And I think I already have 10 alum who have applied for this summer already. So you can absolutely have a friend there, but we will separate you.
But you will see them. There's a lot of times you can eat with them, walk with them, but it's really nice setup because it gives you an opportunity to do what you would be doing in college, meeting people.
Yeah.
Should Coxswains email recordings as a part of the application?
Yep, all Coxswains will do that. And if I don't have one from you, I will email you to get it.
After we applied, is there any sort of interview that happens with a coach? So yes, what you said.
Yeah, so I will reach out to your home coaches and to you at some point. If you're worried that your ERG isn't quite there, you should still apply and just update us. And I will probably reach out to people soon about the applications I've been trying to finalize the location, so I can tell you that when I talk to you. But and so I may say keep going. And that's because we want you within the striking distance of the bulk of the population at camp.
And the last one I have right now is about how many rower and coxswain participants are at the summer program.
Yeah, so Kate's laughing because I can never keep the roster small. I get so excited about all you people that apply late. Apply earlier. So I am hoping that the camp this year is 48 athletes. That includes coxswains. Okay, last year was 56, and that's because the distribution of when people applied was pushed so far towards the camp. I think because of COVID, people weren't sure whether it was going to happen, and it will happen this summer. And if it doesn't, if we go into a situation that none of us can predict right now, where everything is shut down again, we are the only people that have a virtual program bagged and ready to execute. So we just rolled everyone into it in 2022 or 2020. God, no, not in 2022. So I'm trying to make the camp a little bit smaller than it was last summer. So apply early. Is that it, Kate?
That's it on my end.
All right, cool. I don't see any more through here. So let me tell you. So first, let me thank you guys for coming. This is so awesome. Thank you, Sue, Irma, Lindsay. Great job. Thank you. And anyone can reach out to me, Holly at readysetrow.com for questions. Let me tell you a couple of things coming up since some of these more detailed questions come up when people send me emails and stuff asking about this. Mark your calendar, January 18th. I am going to talk and interview Christa Samaras, who's the founder and CEO of Brave Enterprises. That is the company that does the actual science and studying behind fear in this demographic. Okay, so we've done Braves, and by we, it's because she and I work really closely, but she has done an in-person Brave training session, which Sue got to do for 2 years and Irma and Lindsay saw virtually. She's done 15,000 junior women, okay, in the last like 6 years, including the West Point rowing team was was awesome. I got to go watch that. So there was collegiate athletes, there were high school athletes, there were some middle school athletes in there, mainly women, but not exclusively. So we're going to go over a little bit of the data about why this is so important. So if you're sort of into this and what is actually happening, both to you guys in this, you know, in this time in your life and why this stuff is so critical for you. And we are going to talk to Taylor Volmrich, who is a 4-time RSR alum and has worked one-on-one with Christa on some of the Brave character strength training outside of RSR. We are going to talk January 18th, so you can hear from her at like a deep dive in what all these mental skills look like. She was a rower, she's at Ithaca now. And we're going to talk a lot about what do you do now, right? So Ava and some others asked, how do you guys practice this? And this is one of the most frequently asked questions to me, like, this camp was great, now what do I do? And I get emails all the time of like, my club, blah, 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 whatever is going on, or my school, and I feel totally isolated, no one's working on this. So rather than dropping you into RSR just in the summer, we're launching a virtual Brave for high school and middle school women only who play sports, Brave membership. Okay, so you will learn a character strength taught by Christa and other experts like myself, 1 character strength per month. You'll have a Brave coach. Jackie and Kate are going to be 2 of those Brave coaches, and we'll put you into these Brave squads, about 25 to 30 high school girls if you're high school, or middle school girls if you're middle school. You'll be grouped by age, and they will be your mentor and guide you through that process. Okay, so this is the most frequently asked question she and I have gotten of like, what are we supposed to do? How do we keep exercising this part of our life? So we are going to launch that in February of 2022. Okay, we've done a bunch of pilots. This is the beta. It is open to any sport. So all my cross country people on here, this is for you. Is open to any sport, and we want to cross pollinate. Like, we want you to be in groups with other athletes so you can learn what they are experiencing in their sport and benefit from them. At some point, we want to be doing like summits or things in person. People are asking me, is this a virtual membership? Right now it is, because of Omicron. Ideally, there'd be opportunities like a meetup at Head of the Charles, or a meetup at, you know, whatever, state championships, or people know who they are. And we have started that with some of the lacrosse clubs actually already. So if you guys are interested in continuing to build these mental skills, if you've done an RSR program, or even if you haven't, right, there's going to be a library to get you up to speed real quick. It's going to start in February. The first month is going to be totally free, and then it's $29 each month. And at any time you can leave. If you do want to leave, we ask to wait to come back in, because you're going to have an accountability partner, a peer that you're assigned to. And so that this is a team. Like, we want people who are really invested in each other to do this. So we're really excited about it. If you have not met Christa, you're missing out. So come January 18th, she's a total trip. The website is morebrave.com. You can check that out. You can go on it right now and sign up. We have limited spaces because we only have a handful of coaches to start this. So if you think you want to do this, first month is totally free, and then you could cancel it if you're like, I hate that lady, she's crazy. I've never met anyone to meet Christa and say that, though. I think Sue can probably vouch for this, but we're really excited. Sue, Irma, Lindsay, Jackie, Kate, anything else to add?
No, yeah, if anybody has any questions that come up after this, definitely send Holly an email.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in. I'm putting morebrave.com is where you can check this out. It's called the X Team. This is this virtual team. You're going to be put on these Brave squads. It's going to be amazing. I will be one of the people working on the live sessions during the month. And then if you have specific questions about RSR, I have put my email in there, holly@readysetrow.com, and just put a note in your calendar, January 18th. We'll go deep dive. If you're like, what is this and why do we care about it? She will explain the science and the data behind it all. So thank you guys for coming. Sue, Irma, Lindsay, any last words?
If you're nervous about emailing Holly something too, you can reach out to me. I think my Instagram's like Sue Holderness. So just DM me or something. I'll answer any question.
Thanks, Sue. Awesome. Thanks for coming, you guys. Bye.